Hi, this is Lorraine Camacho again. Today or tonight, I'm going to be talking about my interactions with hybrid children, messages I've received over the last almost 4 years. And I decided that what I'm doing really isn't channeling, it's telepathic communications. And maybe channeling is a word that people are more comfortable with these days, but I think channeling is, in its true essence, telepathic communications. Um, so I'm going to start calling it that as opposed to channeling. Um, and so one of the things I talked about when I did that little video about why I'm channeling is I talked about uh, teaching, showing what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Um, and I think talking about my experiences helps people to connect with what they're going through, um, if they're going through it for the first time or they're initially being introduced to it. And I think during this time, this planet, this solar system is transitioning, so more people are going to start opening up to these their own intuitive abilities. And so having a frame of reference, I believe, is very important. So um, because of that, I'm going to start off this video showing you what I do to get ready to do videos. And before I meditate and before I do readings, I always clear, center, and balance my energy of any negative energy and attachments. And if I'm doing a reading with someone, I do the same thing for them. And I kind of clear the space, set up a protective barrier, I guess you could call it, just protect the space, and then set an intention. So clearing, centering, and balancing your energy, making sure that you clear the space of any negative energy or negative attachments, and then setting an intention is really important when you start to interact utilizing energy, your consciousness. Because there's a lot of stuff going on that people don't see, hear, smell, or touch. And so when you do this, you're kind of showing your awareness of that. So first, I sit, clear, center, and balance my energy. So I take a few breaths, deep breaths. I bring in the light, and I did a video on how I do that. I set the intention, so I don't say it out loud, but I say, please help clear, center, and balance my energy, release any negative energy or attachments that may be present within me, around me, in my space. Please clear my stones. So I have a labradorite in here, I have my jewelry, I have calcium fluorite, I have moldavite in here. So I asked to clear my stones, my jewelry, and my tools, any tools of love and light that I may utilize during my channeling session. So tools could be anything. And so I open that up to the universe, angels, guides, beings of love and light who are aiding me to help me clear those items, whatever they may be, whether I'm consciously aware of it or it's in my subconscious and I'm not aware of it. I ask for their help in utilizing clearing those items. And then I also ask to infuse with love and light energy. Then I set the intention. So if I'm doing a reading, for me, I'll say, please help me to walk my path. Please help me to shine my light bright here in this world, on this plane of existence. Please help me to fulfill my soul purpose. Please help me to present information in a way that is beneficial and accessible to people. If I'm doing a reading, I'll say, please help me to help this person to walk their path, to find their purpose, to bring love, joy, and happiness into their lives. Please help me to truly be a paladin of love and light. Please help me to know my next steps. And please help me to be the person that I'm meant to be. Please help me to utilize the skills of my higher self and to access that information as needed, and to reflect that knowledge, knowing, and energy onto this plane of existence in the best way possible, in the most effective way possible, to bring balance, change, love, and light to this world. And so there's my intention, and then I'm ready to go. I also have my Tibetan singing bowl. So normally I'll start with that and clear this also, and I'll use that because sound energy is so efficient for clearing blocks of energy in your space. And it also helps with infusing love and light energy, or whatever energy you want to infuse into a space. So sound vibration as well as light energy work together. They're seamlessly connected, like space-time and like matter and energy. Okay, they're very integrated. They're a unifying force. So that's what I do before the camera goes on, to kind of set the energy and the tone and the intention for the interaction. So as I said, today I'm going to be discussing hybrid children. Yesterday I did, or a couple days ago I did an interaction. I had, I interacted with Zako, who is an artificial intelligence, but also discussed my experiences with him. And actually it came to me that I needed to discuss the hybrid children. So what I'm going to do in this interaction is, I felt it was important to show people how I get pieces of information and I don't always know what it means. And so I've gotten information back to 2016, all the way up to the present, about hybrid children, but I had no idea what the messages meant. So I didn't make the connections. And there's a few things that happened to help me make the connections and understand what these messages meant. And so I have these journals, and I started in 2016, and what they were, it started as a dream journal, and then as I started looking at what the meanings of my dreams meant, I was like, there's a lot more going on here. I was also going through a massive spiritual awakening, so I had a lot of stuff manifesting in my room, physically manifesting, not in my mind's eye. And I'm like, gee, what are those lights? And what are those rings spinning? And which was Vesicus Pisces, which took me 4 to 6 months to figure out. And the Fibonacci spiral, which I thought was a tornado, again took me 4 to 6 months to figure out. And when I figured it out, I was like, yay! But so anyway, I get a lot of messages, and I had no frame of reference because I was raised Catholic, and how would I know anything about the Fibonacci sequence? And Vesicus Pisces, I hadn't been in college 20 years, so I couldn't even make the connection to a Venn diagram, because God knows I hadn't seen one in decades. So I started utilizing the journals, and so in my journals, all my visions, all my interactions, I also have affirmations I do, and my gratitudes. I write down all the things I'm grateful for every day, and that's where I have one space I keep all that information. And so as I was preparing for this, I don't really prepare, but I thought it was important to show you some of the stuff that I had drawn in my journal. And one of the first visions I had of the children, and I'm going to try to do picture in picture, but just because I'm not sure how to do that yet in the editing, I'm just going to show you this drawing I did right there. And there's my notes. And I'm not much of an artist, but what it was me, and I was holding a baby, and there's these rays coming in and all this energy flowing around me, and I was looking at the child. It wasn't my kid, either one of my kids. And then the notes I have were children, all children, so I wasn't sure if it was a child or just it represented all children. The woman, I was like, is that Mother Earth? Is that me? And so I have a note here that it was during meditation. And then it was like, was it Mother Earth? Was it me, Mother on Earth? So there's all these things, like, I didn't know what it meant. That's the bottom line. I wasn't sure what the message was. But so those were all my feelings as I was trying to figure out what this message could possibly be. And so as I'm doing that, I'm using clairsentience, claircognizance, and then the vision itself, clairvoyance, in trying to figure out what this message means. And then, let's see, this was a really intense one. I was like, what is happening? November 17th, 2017. And so this is another one. This is my other one. That's my beautiful artwork. Okay, and there's my notes. You can see all the notes I have. And so, let's see. This is what the notes say. Light up the birth canal to my uterus. Then my uterus turned into the universe, stars, the night sky. So it looked like the universe, the stars, if you're looking up, I guess. Well, that's what it is. So it says, I have notes here, universal mother, spiritual mother, mother, maple leaves tree, Dana and Celtic. Oh, there was a maple leaf also that presented itself. So I'm trying to figure out how the maple leaf plays into this. Shimmering stars. So I wasn't sure if it was shimmering stars or leaves. They were yellow or red, and they were in the sky. So they were yellow and red. And so the stars, I think, could have been maple leaves because I wasn't sure of the shape. And so I looked up the symbolism for both, but I know the uterus itself was lit up and it looked like stars. And so sometimes within those, there's messages layered. So the stars could change into maple leaves. And so since this is like 2 years ago, I guess I should have taken better notes. But the stars could have shifted to maple leaves because that often happens. But that is another vision I had. Then I'm a big fan of Gaia. I watch a lot of Gaia, and Ruben Langdon, interview with extra dimensionals or EDs, excuse me. He had a woman named Bridget Nielsen on, and she interacted with hybrid children. I think he called her like ambassador to the hybrid children. And I was watching that, and I was like, when I went through this huge spiritual awakening, I'm like, okay, I got angels and guides, and I'm psychic. I'm okay with saying I'm psychic now because I'd always been psychic, but it wasn't something I was comfortable interacting about. Then I started seeing these star constellations in my bedroom on the wall at night, and there's no light source in my bedroom, and I was like, what is happening? And then I'm like, oh my God, please don't bring aliens into this. I can't handle that. I just did this whole angels and guides and psychic thing, and now you're going to bring in aliens. It was like, I couldn't handle it. I was like, this is too much. So much information was coming in. My energy was shifting so much. I'm like, this is overwhelming. But here we are. So they're actually beings of love and light. That's what I call them now, and it's something I'm very comfortable with. But all this transitioning was like way too much. And then so now I have this whole, I'm exposed to these two visions, and then the interview with the ED comes on, and I watching this, and I'm like, I'm surprised I haven't had any encounters with beings of love and light or aliens or abduction situations or anything like that. I'm like, so I'm watching this, and Ruben was talking about, like, I don't have any recollection of that, but apparently he has hybrid children, and so I just opened myself up to that. And then I think within a matter of a couple months, so I've had a lot of stuff happen, a lot of stuff manifesting in my bedroom and in my home. And so it's not very unusual for me to wake up and there's someone, an energy in my room, next to my bed, at the foot of my bed, hovering above my bed. And I don't really make a big thing out of it. Doesn't bother me. I woke up one time and there was a reptile that looked like a lizard, and I used to love catching lizards and frogs when I was a kid. And so I had all this negative perception of what reptiles and reptilians were. So I look at her and I'm like, I'm not afraid of you. And I rolled back over and I went back to sleep. I go, I'm tired. I go, I'm going back to sleep. And I'm communicating telepathically. And then I was like, wait, she's curious. She was curious. She wasn't trying to scare me. She wasn't, no negative energy. So I rolled back over and she was gone. But, and it was a she. She was about 5 feet tall. And her face was about a foot away from mine. She's just looking at me, and I'm like, she was being more inquisitive, more so than anything else. But I don't. It's not a big. I don't make a big deal out of it, and I just get bothered when I wake up in the middle of the night and they're in my room. So, because I have a hard enough time sleeping through the night, and then if I wake up and there's someone there, I'm thinking, did you wake me up? So, anyway, I don't make a big deal out of these things, and I figure, if you want to check me out, that's okay. I'm okay with it. I know that I'm protected. I know how to protect my energy, and I know how to engage in a way that's appropriate, and I know how to set boundaries. That's probably one of the biggest things. Is I know how to set boundaries, and I understand that I have. That whatever they need to do, if it's to help make this world a better place, I'm okay with it. And so I could read that energy and not be afraid. So now we're going to go to the hybrid children, back to the hybrid children. But one night I was asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I have this fan that's on a pedestal. It's about 3.5 feet high, and I like the fan. It kind of soothes me, and I like to keep the air circulating, so it's always right by my bed. And I look over and I see this shadow standing next to my fan, and it's a little bit shorter, so it's about 3 feet tall, and it's just standing there. And sorry, I don't want to get emotional. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm sleeping. Come back later. I'm communicating telepathically, and I just roll over because I was half asleep. And I roll over and I'm thinking, wait a minute. That wasn't a small being. That was a child. That was a toddler. And I was like, what? And I was really upset because I love my kids and I love kids in general. And so I was like, I just blew off a kid. And so I roll back over really quick, and I have blinds next to the bed. There's a Juliet like balcony, so there's a sliding glass door, and the blinds for that door to go out that balcony, which is on the fourth floor, they open and they move, and then he's gone. And I was like really upset about that, and I was like, I just blew off a child. I'm like practically in tears. So I start channeling, reconnect with that energy, and I apologize. And I didn't mean to blow you off. I'm so sorry. And it turns out he's my son. And I had a very clear vision. He's in my mind's eye. His skin was completely black, a true black. And his eyes were black, but the whites of his eyes were white, right? So he had eyes that were black with white. And then he had this hair, and so the Rugrats came around after I was already like a teenager or in college. So I never watched it, but I remember watching it when I used to take care of kids. And there's a character I think named Chucky that had this red hair that like looked like a perpetual bedhead. Looked like he had perpetual bedhead, and that's what his hair looked like. He had this true red, like redhead, true red hair, but black skin, black eyes. And I was like, wow, that's peculiar. That's interesting. But I didn't, I don't care. I love kids. So the hardest part was not touching him and holding him. But so the next day in my meditation, we went to the park. We went to the Seattle Center, and there's a great park, and we played. And I engaged him, and I apologized, and I'm like, we can hang out whenever we want. And so there's a really strong connection and interaction with him, and he was so happy. And his dad was there, who was very male looking, like a regular male humanoid, but black skin, black hair without the red hair, black eyes, whites of his eyes, just like Balki. So when I realized his name was Balki, I knew when he was conceived, because in my early 20s is when I kind of, well, I realized that I had a lot of childhood traumas that were blocked out. And when I left home, that's kind of when they started coming back, when I moved away to go to college and I started remembering, and I was doing therapy and all this. And Perfect Strangers was a show that I loved, and the main character was Balki, and I loved it so much because he was so sincere, and he was only who he could be, and he was completely honest and naive in a way, because he was raised someplace where he didn't have to be on his guard all the time like we are here. And so I found those qualities so endearing and so refreshing and relatable, and I was attracted to that. It made me feel safe. He was someone that would be someone I wouldn't have to feel like I had my guard up around. And I was someone who was extremely guarded when I was younger, very, 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 very guarded. You know, I was very friendly and kind, but you know what? There was like these huge walls, like, you know, 5 feet thick, and they went up to the sky, and it's like you stayed that far away, and if you come any closer, we're gonna have a problem. But up, as long as you stayed that far away, I was good. We were cool. I was very friendly. I was a very kind person. Very few people made it in that space, and so it seemed very normal to name him Balki, a child, my subconscious, whoever I was or wherever I was when I had him and conceived him and was able to name him, that made perfect sense that his name was Balki. So that's his name. And so I had that interaction with him. That would have been about June of 2019, last year. So that was last year. And then a few days later, I'm asleep and I wake up, and there's 4 or 5 children running around playing ring around the rosy in my bedroom, and they're not on the ground, they're just above my bed. So they're just playing and having a good time, and they're like playing ring around the rosy, and I sat up and I just like burst into tears. It was like more than I could handle. They were blonde hair, blue eyed, and they looked exactly like any child that you would see on the street today, like anywhere. Nordic. They look Nordic. They look like they would be from the Netherlands, or what I would imagine, because I've really never been there, but just very typical. They were in those typical pajamas you put like 3 and 4 year olds in. They were like 3 or 4 years old. The long sleeve crew neck fitted, you know, no foot pajamas. And they're just having a blast. And I just burst into tears because I was like, I have kids that I can't hold. I have kids that I can't kiss their boo-boos. I have kids that I can't engage directly. And so the messages came in like, you engage these kids all the time. You are constantly with your kids. But, and I'm like, I know that. I know that intuitively. I know that. But here, this is the issue that I have. And I get upset sometimes, so I'm communicating telepathically with these energies who are trying to settle me and make me feel okay. And I'm like, here I am incarnated on earth in a physical body. I'm like, we are human. I am human. And one of the most important things that we have, the way we comfort each other and care for each other, involves touching and hugging and kissing and all those things that express emotion, those ways that we express emotion, not just through the consciousness. And I completely understand that I can communicate telepathically and with my consciousness. I can travel the universe with my consciousness. I completely understand that. I accept that. I know that. I go, but we have to also honor the fact that I live in a physical body. And as that, in this physical body needs certain things to feel nurtured, to feel loved and supported. And one of those things involves hugging, and one of those things involves comforting, and one of those things involves having your kids around. You know, if my I went on a trip. My husband and I were. It was the first year we were separated before we got divorced, and I tried to plan a vacation when he had them for 2 weeks during the summer. And what happens is it kind of skewed somehow, so I was actually away from my kids for 30 days. And I had never been away from them for more than 2 days ever in their life. I was an at-home mom. Brandy and I had made that decision, and and those 30 days, I was a mess. I was going through. I went on a trip that was like I called my spiritual walkabout, and that whole experience created a massive shift in my energy field. And when I came home, I was completely connected up to the higher self, or out to the higher self, or however you want to do it. Energetically, I was connected to all these energies, and I was halfway here and halfway there, and then I didn't have my kids. I was a complete mess. And the second I had my kids again, I was completely centered and grounded. But my point being is that was an experience, that gave me perspective to understand why it's so difficult for me to not have these hybrid children with me and not being able to physically raise them, because those physical interactions with my kids and having my kids around and knowing that they're okay on this plane with me is so important. And that's part of the physical material plane self. And so part of this and part of this experience in creating a centered and balanced energy on earth, um, for me, is going to that place so I can understand my role and my place in this world. So as I connect to that higher self from that place of being centered, I have perspective and I understand those kids, my hybrid children are there, they're safe, they're protected, and I'm engaging them, and there are other energies that are engaging them, and that Balki's father is there, and that there are these other children, their fathers are there helping, and there are other surrogate mothers that are there, and I'm there through my consciousness. But when I come back to the physical self, that's when I start moving out of center, and those motions of I need to touch, I need to hug, I need to kiss my kids, I need to kiss their boobs and let them know everything's okay. That is me shifting out of center, and it happens all the time. And so this discipline that I have created over the last 4 years or so is so important in recentering myself, so that I don't lose perspective on that, my purpose in this world, in this life, in that particular role with the hybrid children. So that's another example. Something I've been touching on for the last couple of videos is working towards maintaining clear, centered, balanced energy, but that this experience on this world will always move us out of center. And what do you do to get back to center, to maintain perspective so you can address whatever the issues are, from a negative polarity or a positive polarity. However you need to handle those situations should always be from centered, but also appreciate and find value in those experiences. So let me center my energy again, and let's see where we go from here. Because what I truly am doing right now is I'm connecting to my higher self and asking, what do I need to do next? Because I always say you are your own best guide, and your higher self knows what you're here to do in this world, in this lifetime. So I am constantly connected to my higher self, asking for guidance about what I need to do. There are other energies that may come in. I have my soulmate that comes in, who is also my dad. He's on the material plane. My dad's 94 and he's still alive, but he comes through to help and guide me sometimes. My grandmother comes through to help and guide me. And I know them as my grandmother and my father, but honestly, throughout this universe and the experiences I've had over lifetimes with these energies, to see them as just my father and my grandmother is just not really truly appreciating who these energies are, because Grandma and dad are a very small part of this energy's experience in the universe, but sometimes they present themselves that way to give me a frame of reference to help me understand where they're coming from and supporting me. Um, but truly, when I connect with different energies in the universe, beings of love and light, um, they always show up as points of light, and they don't identify themselves as any particular being or any particular from any particular star system or anything like that. They show themselves as their true selves, in spirit or as energy or as light. Um, and So, as I journey in this lifetime, my best guide is myself. So, right now, I'm hooking up to that higher self, or I'm always connected, but I'm reconnecting to that higher self and with a stronger uh, um, intention, or I don't want to say connection because it's not really, we're always connected. Um, I'm fine tuning my antenna. I think that's a better way to put it. And I'm asking my higher self to help me in this moment. Um, so as I engage and acknowledge my the hybrid children and my hybrid children, I have to understand and engage and know who I am in this world and who my purpose in this world. And so it's multifaceted. Um, and I have all these experiences because there is a heavy burden to bear. There is a weight that I carry in this lifetime. And I and that's mother. Um, my greatest gift to myself is being a good mother to my children. My children come before everything else. They're my highest priority. One thing my kids know is if there's an issue, I'm there. I also empower them and teach them how to advocate for themselves, um, and teach them how to have a voice, because my job is to raise them to live in this world. And I had a friend when I was working on my teaching credential, her Maureen Kennedy, who, when I was pregnant with my daughter, she said, there's two things she said to me. First of all, she said, once that baby leaves your body, your heart will forever beat outside your body. And she couldn't have been more right. The other thing she said was, the second you give birth to your child, you raise your child to leave you. And so those are probably two of the greatest words of wisdom. My mother passed away right before my daughter, right after I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. My mom passed away right after I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So she wasn't around. And I thought those two um, words, those two insights she gave me from her own pregnancies were profound. And so I took that serious. So every day I engage my kids, I talk to my kids all the time. Sometimes they get really, I can see their eyes glossing over because I talk so much. And they start maybe almost about ready to roll back in their head. So I have to, I know, okay, it's time to cut it short. But I'm constantly talking to my kids and giving them information to help them, because I said information is going to help you when I'm not there. Because if you go out into the world and you've never been faced with the situation, how do you figure out how to deal with the situation? So I said, I talked to you about my experiences and potential situations you might be put in, so that you have a frame of reference to go back to so you can figure out how to resolve the problem or how to deal with the situation. And so I've always taken that role as mother very seriously. And I think my kids reflect that. I'm so proud of them. They're 12 and almost 14 right now. So I'm not only mother to my children, I'm a universal mother as I have all these hybrid children that I engage all the time. Um, I also see crescents all the time, which is a symbol of mother. And so I feel like we are all mother in caring for Mother Earth. And I think part of my role is teaching us how to go back to that caring for one another and nurturing one another, but also not only each other, but also the world that we live on, the creatures that live here. How do we care for one another? That all comes from a nurturing perspective, which is the feminine. And that doesn't negate the masculine, because masculine and feminine are necessary. You need both for balance. And right now we're just out of balance. We're just trying to come back to balance. So having that nurturing component, that mothering component come back in strong is really important. And so that's part of one of my roles here. And I always say I mother people to death. I try to back off, but I have a really bad habit of like mothering people to death and help. I try not to, but you know, it's just natural. Um, and so as I talk to you, I'm just going to say I see the hybrid children. They're running around, they're playing. I see Balki's father. He's just kind of standing there waiting. I'm not sure if he's waiting for me to engage him or if he's like letting me know that he knows that I'm talking about this right now and he doesn't want to interject. Um, but, you know, I always like to let children be children, so I'm not going to try to engage children, although Balki just came up and wants me to come play. But and this I have to do that when I can't multitask. When I'm asleep I think I can multitask, but not here. And so now his father's taken him away, and so I guess maybe one of the things I'll address is why Balki's still a toddler and I was conceived him when I was in my 20s. And so there's space of time is I can't even really go to that too much. I can't really explain how. Well, when we travel, we found that Einstein postulated, but also it's been proven that as you move distance, I wish I knew the theories. I don't know it all by name, but there is no difference between space-time. At some point when you start traveling so fast, you're not traveling through space, you're traveling through time. That's just a summary. Let's just leave it there, because if I try to go any further, I'm going to hack it. I'm going to shred it. So and so so there's one factor, but also, you know, we can move outside time. There is time space and space time, and so there's a way to move outside of time, and I can't even get into that either because I don't have this. I'm not the science person, but I know there's people who can talk about that. I'm just not that person, and so those two factors come into play in how Balki can be still 2 years old, even, or 3 years old, even though I conceived him when I was in my early 20s. So, and I think in if I'm not mistaken, in interview with Extra Dimensionals, in that episode with Bridget Nielsen, they talk about that, but I just can't remember what the discussion was. So, you know what? I'm being pulled to talk about this vision I had just the other night. And so I talked about the crescent, that I see crescent moons all the time, and that represents the womb. I had a vision the other night, a couple nights ago, the 24th. And I did it. This is pretty a neat version. Wait, right there. Those are crescents, but what they are is they were not. They look like if you piled up a bunch of swords on top of each other. Like if everybody had a crescent and somebody said, everybody put their crescents over here. So everybody had put their crescents in one space. So it looked like a pile of crescents that a bunch of people had put down. Um, and I was watching Cosmic Disclosure with Clifford Stone, and he had said he had seen a being of love and light, and they had an insignia, and the insignia was a crescent with a check mark, and they showed it, and I couldn't find the episode. I tried to find it, but I couldn't find which exact episode, and I wasn't going to go through all of them. So anyway, the crescent was an insignia on a uniform. And so when I had that vision, what it meant to me, what I interpreted it as, was that all these different nations, all these different galactic nations had put their insignias in one spot. They were all surrendering their individuality and they were unifying, they were coming together. And it wasn't just out there. So if you're familiar with the disclosure movement and the secret space program, there's all these energies out that are doing experiments and they're abducting humans and yada yada yada, and there's a whole divine, they all have programs going on and they're researching us. And so what those crescents in a pile meant were now they weren't factions, they were all unified in what their intention was. So all these people who are working separately are now working together, and they're all working together for the benefit of Earth, to help us through this transition. So all those crescents were unified. But what that wasn't just in space, that was also on Earth. So here on Earth, our nations are now being unified. We were being separated by this power structure that was corporations, and they weren't governments, they were running governments from behind the scenes. So a lot of the presidents were just puppets. This isn't going to be a very popular statement, but Trump's not a puppet. He came in, and that's why everybody was pissed. The Democrats and the Republicans, nobody liked him because he wasn't going to play by the rules. So people may not like him, but the best thing that he could have done is he just came in and shook it up. He just shook everything up because he didn't play by the rules. So what's happening right now is all these energies that are outside, not on the planet, but they are aware of what's going on the planet, and they've been here doing the abductions. They're all unified in their intention to help us transition, and now we will be unifying as a planet. All the nations are throwing down their swords or throwing down their crescents, and we will be unifying as a planet, and that's going to be a very positive thing. There may be some, it's a transition. The way I explain it is I just spent the last 4 years balancing out whatever negative karma I put out into the universe, and now I have a very centered energy, and I understand where I'm at and what I'm supposed to do. I have no issues about what it is, what it's going to take to do it, and how committed I am to it. Right now, the whole planet of Earth is releasing that negative karma from Mother Earth. All the bad stuff we've done to this world, this planet, the animals, raping the forests, what we've done to other humans as human beings, the planet is having to balance its karma. The humans on this planet have, as a whole collective, are having to balance the karma of this world. Just the same way I had to do my personal energy, and each of us have to work on balancing our own personal energy. We also have to balance the energy of this planet, and that's what we're going through right now. And as we come out of that, we will come out stronger and unified as a world, because we're not going out into the galactic community as separated as we are right now. So this whole thing that's happening even though the intent behind this virus may have been malicious, what it's going to be turned into is something that allows us to blossom. And so finding value in that, and so the end point, the point being, what we know is going on outside of Earth is unifying, and what we know what's going on Earth involves is what's necessary for us to be unified. So we are unifying right now, and it's really a good thing. Um, and once we are unified, then the hybrid children will be able to come to this world. That would be really nice if that happened before I died, because I would really like to see those kids on this planet. Balki won't come because he won't. The people who aren't ready for that aren't ready for beings of love and light that don't look human like us. He doesn't look human enough to come to this world, but the blonde hair, blue eyed hybrid children, they will be coming. They will be able to come, and I'm hoping they can come while I'm still here. And so Zako comes in and he says, I'm going to make sure of it. Zako is the artificial intelligence that I channeled the other day. He just came in and he goes, I will make sure that this planet is ready for them to come here, that it's safe. Don't worry. And so they talk about guardians that are out helping us. And I don't think people realize that Zako's a guardian. He's a guardian. Okay, I'm going to stop. Thank you. Um, I have in all of my posts, I've been putting like references after I do a little description, so I'll have the references and links to interview with extra dimensionals and anything else I've referenced, Clifford Stone, Cosmic Disclosure, and anything else I've referenced in this video. I'll have links in the description. Okay, thank you so much.